Today we're going to make a tomato and onion soup from the island of Madeira, Portugal. My grandmother used to cook this soup when I was younger, and she was from the Ponta do Sol area of Madeira. Just an absolutely beautiful area. If you're there, you have to check it out. Just such rugged terrain. It's such a rugged volcano, but everybody makes little terraces to make their little gardens. So the island is just little terraces dotted throughout the island, just gorgeous. She came from the Ponta do Sol, the town, and the area called San João. This is a classic winter soup for Madeira Island. It's a tomato and onion soup. It also includes poached eggs. So let's get started. The first step in this soup is to peel the tomatoes. So first off, I will core them. Then we'll put a little X cut on the bottom of the tomato. Peel just doesn't really break down too well when using tomatoes in this application. So you put a little X, and when it blanches, the peel will start to fold back in that area, and that'll be the little handles you grab onto. And just a little X right on top. So you just want to drop the tomatoes in the boiling water for about 30 seconds to 1 minute. You'll notice the peel starting to peel away from the tomato. That's a sign that they are ready to be taken out. Put them in a bowl, just let them cool off so you can handle them. So now we'll peel them. And this is something you don't need to get 100% of it off, as long as most of it comes off. So for the tomatoes, I am going to quarter them and then try to scoop out some of the seeds. You don't need to get 100% of them out. Maybe if you could get like half of them out, that's great. Again, you could be kind of rough with the tomatoes because you are going to cook these in a soup, so it's not like you have to preserve the integrity of the tomatoes. And then I usually like to use a little tomato paste also, just to give it a little more robust flavor. If you don't have tomato paste, instead of the tomato paste I put in here, you could put probably like 12 ounces of just a plain tomato puree. Okay, now we're going to dice up the onions. The onions can be a rough dice because all of this I'm going to blend up at the end with a blender. You could use a blender, or if you have one of those stick mixers, that works also. So now I'm going to get my herbs ready. I'm using oregano and some fresh parsley. You could also use thyme, basil. I always try to use bay leaf. It's one of the big spices used in Portuguese cooking is bay leaf. So I try to use quite a bit. I'm going to put 6 bay leaves in here. And I actually did an experiment today. Sometimes I kind of do crap like this, but I measured out, this is about 200 milliliters, 200 grams of water. I put in 1% salt, so I put in 2 grams of salt, heated it up to about 180. Then I put some bay leaf, about the same amount, about 6 bay leaves. I think it was 2 grams of bay leaf also. So 1% salt, 1% by weight bay leaf. After about 10 minutes, the aroma really came through, but I really wasn't tasting a lot. But then after about half hour to an hour, I really could taste just a delicious bay leaf flavor in this water. What I'm getting at, sometimes I've read comments where people are kind of wondering how much does bay leaf add. Trust me, this much bay leaf, about 1 cup of water, has great flavor. So normally it just seems like so many recipes, they just put in 1 piece of bay leaf for like a huge stew or stock, and to me we could use a lot more bay leaf. It goes really well for so many things. Obviously in Madeira, espetada has a lot of bay leaf, and don't be afraid to add more. I really think, especially if you're Portuguese, you should be planting your own bay leaf tree in your backyard. They're super easy to grow and delicious to have on hand for so many reasons. So what I'm getting at is if 6 bay leaves taste pretty good in 1 cup of water, it's going to be fine putting 6 or probably up to 12 bay leaves in a soup like this, so don't be afraid to experiment. A lot of times recipes, just even my recipes, let them be a guide, but don't feel free to be a little creative on the side. And if you don't have fresh oregano, you could use like dry Italian herbs. And I'll rough chop this garlic. Okay, now we're going to put our soup together. First thing I'm going to do is add some olive oil, saute the onions until soft. Now that the onions are soft, I'm going to add in the garlic and half the fresh herbs. Now I'm going to add in some salt, saute for about 5 minutes, and then I'll add the tomatoes. Now we're going to add in half the fresh herbs. Put in your tomatoes. Now I'm going to put in the bay leaf. I will pull out the bay leaf before I blend it up in the blender. Now I'm going to add in the water, chicken bouillon, now I'm going to add in 8 ounces of tomato paste. All right, the soup has been cooking for about 30 minutes. I'm going to pull out any bay leaf pieces I see in there because bay leaf does not break down. Now I'm going to puree some of the soup. Again, if you had a stick mixer, you could do it that way. And you can play around with this. You don't have to puree it, or I'm probably going to puree about half of it, then just add it back in, then leave some of the big chunks in there. I like that kind of rustic look it leaves it. So that's about probably 70% of the soup. I'm going to put the rest of the fresh herbs in there. I tasted it. I thought it tasted really good. Remember, I had seasoning from the chicken bouillon that has a lot of salt. Tomato soup and black pepper go so well together. Put our lid on. Okay, the soup is blended up. Looks delicious. Smells delish. I got the herbs coming through, the olive oil, the garlic definitely. That looks fabulous. Now there's a few ways you could go about the dish now. Really rustic, you could put this over a low simmer, crack the eggs into it. This makes about 10 8-ounce cups or 7 12-ounce bowls. So either you could crack about 8 eggs in here and people just serve themselves at the table, or like I'm gonna hold on to this, have some friends coming over tomorrow, so I'm gonna poach my eggs tomorrow. So you could poach your eggs separately also and put it on top of the finished soup and serve it in a bowl that way. A couple tips for poaching eggs. When you heat up your water, you want it to be just below boiling, and also you want to add, for about every 2 quarts of water, which is all I'll need here, you want to add about a teaspoon of vinegar. You could use vinegar or lemon juice. They have about the same acidity. What that does is it lowers the pH from of water, which is close to 7. And what that does is it helps denature the protein around the egg quicker so that the egg sets up nicely and doesn't get all runny. Again, you can't just crack these in here, but another trick that's a little more refined is to crack an egg into a strainer first. Let some of the really watery part, because egg white, which is all protein, is made up of about 4 different types of protein. So let some of that watery part of the protein come out of the strainer. Then put each egg in a little ramekin, and then that'll go into the poached water just really gently. And that way, again, you're less likely to break the yolk, and it just looks much more appealing. Crack the egg right into the strainer. Maybe like a half a teaspoon of the liquid comes out. Just kind of let some of that watery part of the egg drip out. Then gently put it in your ramekin. My water is simmering and the vinegar's in there. And now we'll gently lower the egg into the water. You want to slowly submerge the ramekin under the water while tilting the egg out into the water. And then you want to use a slotted spoon to take the egg out of the hot water. Poached eggs can take anywhere from 4 to 7 minutes, depending on how well you like your eggs done. Here's the finished bowl of soup. Can't wait to dig in. Looks great. Put 2 poached eggs in there with some boule de coco croutons. I have a video on that if you want to watch how to make boule de coco. I also have popsicle. Any of those, or croutons, or any rustic bread would go really good with this dish. Also, a little extra drizzled extra virgin olive oil never hurts, so go for that if you like. And give it a try. Great winter soup to try out. It's a hearty soup. If you're having friends over, this could be a main meal. Thanks for joining me. Now go cook for someone you love.